Today's video is going to start off being about the mythology of glass being a supercooled liquid or otherwise that was debunked a lot earlier than 2007 as indicated by this article in Scientific American. It's going to be about people gatekeeping fact, people fighting fact, and people who went through some sort of a traumatic experience, many cultures had one, where they decided that fact was the enemy of their progress in what they wish to accomplish that they never say out loud. And for the record, if anybody's curious, I'm a flaming atheist and a liberal, which a lot of you would already assume from watching my channel or even my attitude. Glass is not a liquid and it doesn't flow, and it doesn't flow in a period of time since the medieval period. It simply doesn't. Period, full stop. And no, you're not right, and yes, I'm going to say this. If you contradict not well-established scientific fact, but lie about it being well-established scientific fact that's been known for a ridiculous long period of time, and say the science is not settled about anything that is, you are the group of people this is aimed at. Because every one of you, because you had something about reality threatened for you, have decided to embrace non-reality. In 2007, we get a Scientific American article, but it's much older than that. When we try to look it up on Snopes through Google, and this is without any kind of tool or time range or anything being done, even if it tries to hide the time range functions here intermittently, because Google is being aggressively anti-looking up things, oddly enough, on Google. Snopes doesn't cover the subject. Medieval glass flowing or being uneven as a meme isn't being covered by Snopes, which is the page I got it from when I had many channels ago that were deleted because of bullshit reasons. I had a video about this subject, and I can't find the Snopes article. The only reason I found this is Google begrudgingly showed it to me through Yahoo. Fact or fiction, glass is a supercooled liquid. Are medieval windows melting? Was the first result on Yahoo, but Google was hiding it. Let's look here. Glass liquid before 2026. Just typing in the word glass and liquid, because those two words are actually used together. And you'll notice the AI button's missing because I blocked it using uBlock Origin. I don't want this thing bringing up an AI answer. I want it letting me look up an answer without AI being able to interfere. And I'm doing it explicitly by using the web interface, and I use a trick that's still available. That's the ampersand UDM equals 14, meaning disable AI. This has been around a while. You can look up UDM equal 14 or UDM 14 and you'll find it. And it still actually works for some reason. Google hasn't bypassed this. And on this one, the tools, it's anytime. Right here, I'm command line instructing it to look before the year 2026. Let's try doing it this way, the one that's approved. Custom range, and put in 2026. And hit go. And it does exactly the same thing. And if I change it to where it doesn't have the before function, it just says glass liquid, which will be on the screen here. It says there is no such thing as someone ever looking up through Google the word glass and liquid ever. And is there anything that Google would have a listing for that has those two words in it? That's all I'm asking, because this is a keyword search. Me putting in this instruction is supposed to force Google to use the keyword search function, and it doesn't work anymore. It worked a month ago when I was looking up stuff about a video game, and it still works on a few things. But something as basic as just two stinking words that should give me a bunch of results gives me 0. Didn't match any document on the internet from before the year 2026. And if I put it in as this, it does as well. Let's do anytime with this. Now if I remove the before 2026 requirement, guess what shows up? 14 years ago. It doesn't tell us the year, because again, this is part of deflecting your ability to find out something straightforward. 14 years ago, and it's 2026, we have to do math in our head. Most of us don't want to do that extra step. And I don't know if you noticed this, but putting in the number 2007 takes up less space than 14 years ago, or whatever year that was. Not even going to do the math, because why should I? They're wasting actual bandwidth doing that. They would never have to change this response. It could just say 2007 or 2008 or whatever the year was. You understand, right? Some of you might be getting where I'm going here. By the way, that was 2012 apparently, but it could be any year. Because years from now, I could say 14 years ago and be stuck that way. Let's look at the Wikipedia article. This is from 2004 June, and it has arguments against flow and does glass flow. This is a Wikipedia article. It references alt-folklore urban news groups. It doesn't cite science papers, and this is 2004. But it does. Wow. And it was the only thing anybody cared about. Let's look at what happened in the revision history. Some of you have looked at Wikipedia articles. I always tell you, don't trust Wikipedia. Just use their citations, hence going to the bottom of the page. But if you want to see something horrifying, look at the wars. Now, we have R.H. Herman, Hag Indis, that IP address, and this IP address, arguing. And these are all stating anti-flow citations were added, but it shows subtractions of somebody who isn't here. Because Wikipedia practices the art of redaction. Because they don't want to let a troll become famous. No, it's not because the troll closed their account or it was killed. Wikipedia actively removes controversial statements. Originally, the rule was you never do that, because then that makes them look biased. This is, if you aren't aware of it, just after September 11th. September 11th was a wake-up call to a group of people that became panicky, that were permanently scarred and decided that no matter what, they weren't going to ever feel weak again, and decided to go berserk on the internet, looking for every source of information that contradicted their personal beliefs, and went around and flooded, attacked, doxed, threatened, and in some cases physically assaulted people for saying things that violated their worldview. And this was part of every religion. Hence the reason for, if you weren't aware of it, being a religiously motivated attack on September 11th, attacking the United States. And yes, some of you are going to scream that it wasn't the bad guys that did it, it was us, because you listened to their propaganda. Yeah, this isn't the point when this all happened, but this is when an army was activated. For the last 25 years or more, there has been an army of people who were traumatized by essentially a single event. It was actually multiple, that made them have this happen. Also, some of us hackers were traumatized as well by the Y2K era thing, which if you weren't there, you don't know what I'm talking about, and made us into activists. And we fought against this stuff. For all you know, one of those is me. It isn't, but it could be. Here's the Glass article, the oldest one that is that we can get here. It shows it was September 18th, 2001. Doesn't mention the flow thing. I mean, it kind of does, but it doesn't get to the point. Here are the users that were involved in that little war in 2011, October and September, etc. What else were they into? Well, this one was on the Manhattan Project. List of wine-producing regions for some reason became controversial. Glass. Son of God. The color orange. Congressional Medal of Honor. Ford crossing. Or is that a fjord? And fiddly bits. Diving. Lots of subject matter with deletions, redactions. The Troubles, which is a controversial subject because there's two sides of the argument. And people don't like that sometimes. And yes, these people might be the good guys or bad guys, depending on your opinion. Indus Valley Civilization, history. We got Pakistan, so maybe this is a person from another area. The creation myth was discussed. A war on established reality, fact, history. These people are either fighting for or against maintaining history. Maybe these are Fahrenheit 451ers like me that are trying to prevent the books from being burned. And probably failing. Because again, you look it up, Snopes doesn't show up because Google says there is no such thing. when you look it up on Google, you only get an answer if you don't specify, I want something before today's date. You have to say, just show me what you want me to read, Google. But when I specify the year, month, and day before or after, I get no results. And if I use their own built-in interface and say 2026 and hit enter, nothing. And if I do this, so it's totally being told, just use your stupid algorithm or AI or whatever, still doesn't do it. Because they want me to look up something else. Let's hit up and down arrow and see what it demands. If you haven't noticed, I've disabled its ability to bring up suggestions for a good reason. Because it'll bring up things like, would you like to look up the latest trends? I'm looking up glass and the word liquid. And it brings up clothing. Because it's a sales page and a manipulation system. We had people fighting hard, both sides. And the shit hit the fan in 2001 for a while. Was it a long while? Was it as bad before? This one only started in October. What did they know? What about this one? Well, it goes back. How old is Wikipedia? Go look that up. Okay? Now let's get on to my statement. In a billion years, the liquid state of glass will flow 1 nanometer. Go look that up. That means in a practical period of time for something from 1268 Westminster Abbey medieval glass at a church, it's not going to flow in any way you can detect. Before the 1960s, having float glass being poured on liquid tin becoming widespread, the majority of glass was born uneven. It had a fat or thin end, or several edges that were just the wrong shape. It could be any shape. Optical grade glass was either ground perfectly flat and then made into lenses, or vice versa. The point is, the flow level was figured out in 1998, and actually earlier, showing that glass doesn't flow, and everybody knows this meme. You've all heard of it. That's probably why you looked this up. And it was debunked clearly on the internet, which is a bad thing because it's accessible. We can read it. And it doesn't say, oh, well, you have to sign up or pay for something. Every one of the scientific articles on this that I tried to look up wanted me to subscribe, pay a fee, or get a subscription to look up a fact. Snopes isn't allowed to cover it and is being censored because it's a controversial subject about whether or not glass is a super cold, ultra slow moving, flowing liquid material. When it's not. It is not doing that. If it takes a billion years to move, like a billionth of an inch, then it's going to take a lot longer than that for us to notice it. And if you're not aware of it, glass is made uneven. And I did a studio doing glass blowing at one point. But before that, I made stained glass windows. Because they're pretty and you can hang them up. And I wanted to make one as a gift for Christmas. And I did it during summer because that's when the glass was available. And I talked to a person who's really old who's brought up this little lie about glass flowing and said, no, glass was always made uneven. The glass you're holding is substandard glass. It's just pretty looking. It's not good enough for making even a cup out of. The glass is, however, quite capable of tolerating you exposing it to heat to melt metal to hold it together. And also this statement. Originally, you could buy ready-made chunks of lead or other metals that had grooves in it to put the glass in. Glass very often wouldn't fit and would have to be ground and would ruin it because it wouldn't fit into the gaps. Lead was more forgiving. And if it was too skinny, you made sure the skinny part was towards the top because if it was a glass window, that would keep it from collecting garbage and rotting. That's the only reason a lot of the glass had the thin end towards the top. They're also found upside down comparatively. It was a method to prevent buildup of garbage, and so that they didn't have to heat up the lead or whatever material they had to a temperature that it would actually technically damage the glass. This was just about putting it in a convenient orientation, and sometimes they didn't even do that.